It's Saturday, April 19th. I think it's the 19th, 2025. And I come out to help a buddy today. He's going to help me too, so it's a good trade. And so I come out to visit Sheldon. Say hi, Sheldon.
Hi, Sheldon.
Smarty pants. So Sheldon had a big loss this year, so he's got some packages on the way. Actually, they're in the shed. And we're loading up these hives with some comb, some foundation, some feed frames, etc., 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 to then look at hiving packages later on. And so that's what we're doing. Sheldon lives a good solid hour away from my place, and so I just drove the big truck over here to come and help out. So I got to get back to work or I'm going to get fired. Just thought I'd bring you in on what's going on today. It's Sunday, April 20, 2025. It is in fact Easter Sunday. Happy Easter. This is absolutely the warmest day that we have had probably since September, maybe August. It's 15, I think it was 15C when I came out here. My weather app says 14. I think my weather station in the house at 15. It's very windy though, but of course south wind brings the warmer air. Yesterday, the day before, it was a north wind, and holy smokes was it cold. So I'm just out here for a while. I'd like to look in a couple of beehives because it's a warm day and it's not going to be warm for most of the week yet. So I'd really like to look in some beehives, see what we've got. And I think you want to see too, don't you? So the bees are 100% on the dry pollen sub here. They seem to almost, if you can see the pail through there, they're on those too. They almost seem to be a little more excited about the pails. I'm not sure. I didn't take a survey to see. So I was just kind of going through but organizing some of the deadouts, and specifically organizing the covers, because I've had a few people ask me, and she's gonna die anyway, right? And she would have, because she stung me right there. So I've had a few people ask me, since almost all of these bees came from somewhere else last summer, all but 3. And those 3 came from somewhere else in 2024. So there is none of my stock that I've had for the last, 8, I guess at the time it would have been 8 years, 9 years. There is 0 colonies left from that history, that stock, that genetics and whatnot here. So there was 3 left from those 40 that James McNally brought over in 2023. And then everything else came from somewhere else in the landscape last summer. So people were asking me, well, do you have any numbers as to how, each of those survived, each of those subsets, right? Now, I kind of hesitate to even do those numbers, and this is why. There was so many people who kicked in with either giving me bees or giving me money and then I can buy bees, that the largest donor was 50 and the smallest was 2, I think. And there were quite a few people who donated 2. I don't think there was anybody who donated 1, but there was quite a few people who donated 2. And then there was 3, 4, 5. Most of them were 3, 4, 5. There was one gentleman donated 8. So what I'm getting at is, if a guy who donated 2 and 1 died, that's a 50% loss, right? This is not really very meaningful against the guy who donated 50 and there's, 10 of them died, so it's a 20% loss. They're not really that comparable, statistically speaking. But having said that, I did just go through all of the live colonies and documented the origin of those, and I went through all of the deads and documented the origin of those. So I just made notes, so I didn't do the math. I will chart that and kind of figure out, you know, who's who and what's what. I don't think it's going to be very conclusive for me, so I'm not spending too many cycles on it. But what I want to do here today, as I said, is so warm that I really, really want to see in a couple of these brood nests. I'm going to pick a couple of the strong ones, and I just want to see. I want to see if there's capped brood, which I assume there's going to be. I want to see if there's eggs. I want to see if there's a good progression of sealed brood out to mature larva to eggs. I want to see that nice even progression. I don't think that I'm going to see that. I normally don't this time of year, because this is what happens is you can literally take a healthy colony, look at that healthy colony nest, and you can look at that nest and rewrite certainly the last 10 days of weather in that nest. Because what I mean is, you know, the colony, the nest will be expanding, she'll lay a bunch of eggs, and then they'll hatch and they'll start to feed those, and they'll turn into larvae and whatnot, blah, 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 and then you get a really cold day or two, and then they'll cannibalize a bunch of that, or it'll chill and die and they'll haul it out or something. So then that shrinks back, and then they have to start over. So then when they do that start over part, what you end up seeing is you'll see an age of larva, and you know, you might see 5-day-old larva and eggs, right? So you have 2 or 3 days missing in there. So you can write that. So if you see eggs that she laid today, then the eggs are going to be yesterday's eggs, and then you see 5-day-old larva. Then so you can see, well, 2 days ago and 3 days ago it was too cold for them to expand that nest. So it's actually pretty interesting. If I always tell new beekeepers, the very first thing you need to learn and get in your head, like the back of your hand, is that life cycle. When is the egg laid? How long is it an egg? How long is it a larva? When is it capped? How long is it capped? When does it emerge as an adult? You need to know that absolutely 100%, like the back of your hand. And the next progression of that is memorize that for queens. It's very similar, but it's not exactly the same. So that, I think, is vital. So I want to see some of these strong ones, see what the nest looks like, and see how they've been doing. These colonies are not real strong. So I assume that the weather that we've been having, which has been quite up and down, we've actually been doing pretty good for weather, but we've had quite a few cold days. So I'm going to assume that I'm going to see some gaps in the brood nest like that. But if I don't see, that's going to make me really happy, because that means that the colony is strong enough to compensate for that. They're resilient enough to keep the brood nest cohesive through that cold weather. Now, I'm 100% expecting these. Come on, these insulated ones. Where are the insulated ones? Yeah, over there. The insulated ones should have the opportunity to compensate for that a little better than the non-insulated ones. So hopefully, you know, I'll have the opportunity to look through a couple of these wooden ones. The non-insulated, they're all wooden, but the non-insulated, and then we'll look through a couple of the insulated ones and see if we see any gaps there. All right, enough talk. Let's get to work. I'm wearing my jacket today, which is strange. I was at my buddy's yesterday, and I left my veil in my truck, which is way back at the house. So we'll do the Foxhound Bee Company jacket. I love this jacket. It's really nice. I don't think they sell this kind anymore, which is a shame. Sawmill Charlie bought one as well. I think he really likes it. Okay, so I marked this one a 3. I want to look in the strong ones to see what I'm interested in. So, okay, so the first thing I see is I see that they've been chewing on that pollen patty. Now, so that tells me, well, it tells me, oh, they're like the pollen patty. No, it tells me that there's sugar in it and they're bees, so they eat it. Now, what it really tells me is that they're brooding. And it wasn't such a windy day. I might be able to feel that. I can definitely feel the difference in the temperature of the colony when they're brooding. There's about a 5 degrees C differential between a brooding and a non-brooding colony. If they're not brooding, they don't waste energy to keep everything as warm. I was watching Bob Binney video and he was talking about something. He said, he said he years ago he had a sage beekeeper. Somebody asked this sage beekeeper, well, which frame do you take out first? And Bob said he was waiting on the edge of his seat to get some real sage advice. And he said the old beekeeper, he said, just kind of thought for a moment, and he said, the easiest one. That's which one you take out first. Okay, so it's still not really warm here. So the one thing I don't want to do, yeah, there's larvae on that. I'm gonna hide it down here, away from the wind, so I can get another frame out. I can't move them all. It's spring and they're all welded in there, so I'll move them 2 or 3 at a time. Always gotta be mindful of the queen. You know, the queen is in there somewhere. You don't want to harm the queen. I had a lot of long grass last year, and some of it ended up in the hive. I know Ian would shake his fingers at me for that. And rightfully so. Alright, so there's quite a bit of feed over in this side. I might center this a little bit, get some feed on this side as well. Okay, so now that I've got that frame out, I'm going to get this other frame back in where it's warm. If it's nice and sunny, if it wasn't windy out here, I wouldn't be as concerned. But things cool off in that wind pretty fast. Feels warm to me, but it's not that warm for the bees still. That brood is, April brood is probably the most precious brood I'll ever have. Every baby bee counts this time of year. Okay, so because I'm going to be just having a really quick look at these frames. Pull them out. In the spring, my management is a bit more clumsy. I haven't managed a hive in a lot of months. Okay, so quickly look at this. Now, the wind can blow the bees off the frame, and it can blow the queen off too. They're putting some of that syrup in this frame. I've got my sunglasses on. I can't see in those cells with sunglasses on. I should have my Mike Berry flashlight. There's larva. So I always have to guess at the age of the larva by how big it is. Probably a larva that hatched. I'm gonna say 2 or 3 days ago. So 2 or 3 days ago, 2 days ago was a cold day. cold and windy day. So she was laying, so that hatched 2 or 3 days ago. What I want to see is if they've got any larvae that hatched, that's just hatched today. Would be nice, because that would have been an egg that was laid on that cold day. I kind of don't expect her to have been laying on that day, but maybe. Okay, here's a story frame, so it'll be interesting to see what's on here. There's capped brood in the middle, and I think I'm seeing just a dot of royal jelly. There's my queen right here. Big green, I think it was green last year, wasn't it? Dot on her. Okay, see, this looks really nice. Look at this. Nice sealed brood here, and it appears like it's maybe emerging, but we'll get that back in there. Now we know where the queen is. This is one of the hives that was given to me in that lot of 50. It's I call it a loner hive. I need to replace it at some point, but he's given me some pretty good terms on getting these back to him. Okay, so I know where the queen is now. Nice patch of sealed brood throughout here, and a good progression of young larvae outside the sealed brood. Yes, that is exactly what I wanted to see. That's really nice. Okay, so this one might have as well. Yeah, nice sealed brood patch there. I don't go full on cleaning up at this stage, but I do want to clean a little bit, particularly between the frames, to get that management space back again. So I want to see if the nest is out here. I don't think it is. They're putting nectar here. Okay, so what I am going to do, I'm going to center this a little bit, because they really don't have any feed on the outside. I didn't say at the beginning, this patty, when they're consuming the patty, that is an all but guarantee that they're brooding. If they have no queen or they're not brooding, they don't consume that patty. So this is going well. I'm very happy. Okay, so I'm going to put these 2 syrup frames on the outside, just so they're a little better proximity to some feed stores. I'll get a bit of cold weather, then they'll perhaps enjoy that. That story frame is totally the wrong position now, but we'll fix that later on. She's not going to be laying drones right now. Okay, thumbs up on that one. I'm very pleased. I think I might be seeing a turnaround on this one. So some newly emerging bees, really, in this. So let's check another couple. So I'm noticing a trend here. Again, those 50 that gentleman, the loner hives that he lent me, look to be most of the 3s are those hives. So that's nice. He gave me some good bees. Okay. So the bees are consuming that patty, but to a lesser stage in that consumption. So that's an empty frame. They're storing some of the syrup in it. And that one's full. So it's weird that the one on the outside is empty. So this looks weird. It looks like a monster came in. I was in here, I guess. I probably put these in here. That's why that one's empty on the outside. I just scraped the cappings off of this so that they could access the syrup a little more easily. Just an old beekeeper taught me that. Some of this stuff, you don't know if it really makes a difference, but... Okay, so again, a bit lesser degree, but they are consuming that. Okay, there's actually sealed brood on this one. I can't see anything in the open cells. Sealed brood and some very young larvae. Oh, and there's eggs too. I think they did slow down a couple of days ago when it was cold, but it doesn't look like they gave up altogether. It wasn't breathtakingly cold. It was a north wind, which made it feel extremely cold to me, but they won't feel that. They just, that's not the way wind chill works. They'll just feel whatever temperature it was. Well, I made a blanket statement there. They do feel a little bit, but it's not the same. Because they keep the cluster warm, not the box. Okay, I'm just admiring bees now. I'm not really. I'm very excited. I have bees. I didn't see the queen. I don't know if they were all marked. Okay, that's a smaller nest, but lots of room to grow. Lots of open comb in the middle. This empty one on the outside here. It's all good. That's nice looking bees. Very happy with that. Look at that. Look at that. I'm going to get them another patty. They finished that off. Wow. That's pretty remarkable there. Oh man, I feel like I just won the lottery. Wow. That's so nice. There's bees right on the outside, all the way out. No, that's not the nest, obviously, but the population is such that the bees are stretched right out. That's a warm day too. Well, I mean, it's a warm day for me, but it's still, what is 15, about 60 F or so. Very warm to me because we haven't had any warm weather yet. Have to be careful. The wind can blow the bees right off the frame, and the queen too. You don't want to blow the queen on the ground. I got syrup in my hand. I love working without gloves, but that's the worst part, is your hands get so sticky and gross. It's okay. It is what it is. And so that story frame, they've chocked that right full of that syrup that I've been feeding them. So that's really nice because it tells me that they're not... Oh, she crawled up my pant leg and stung me on the shin. That tells me that they're not... living hand to mouth, as it were. Tarsal tube proboscis. A little beekeeper humor there. And I see eggs here. It's all eggs though. So what this tells me, there's no sealed brood here, but there's some eggs here. So what this tells me is recently, in the last 24 to 48 hours, she has decided, and the bees have decided, that it's time to extend the nest to another comb this direction. So they're feeling good. They're optimistic. They're going forward. It's funny, there's no sealed brood here. There's some sealed brood and lots of plump larvae on this one. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at the nest all through here. It goes right out from sealed brood to eggs. It's a perfect progression. Oh, that's so beautiful. Just beautiful. Okay, and I see eggs all the way down to here. I think eggs are pretty tough because they often don't cover the eggs. You know, there's often a patch of eggs on the outside of the nest, and they're not really on them. I mean, they don't feed eggs, so there's that, but you know, not even bothering with them temperature wise or anything. Oh yeah, this is a nice looking nest. Wow, I really just want to put this back together and stop messing with it, but then I love the look of it. Okay, let's do that. Get out of here. Okay, I'm really, you know, I'm seeing what I want to see. I'm considering putting some feed frames in. I have access to see what I need to see, and I'm seeing a scenario that I want to see, which is really nice. Okay, sure had a different feeling than last year. That was a gut punch last year, I'll tell you. And I'll never forget the kindness of those who helped. Wow. Because this is the result of those who helped, right here. Patty, I need to go and get a patty for these. Okay, so here are the only 2 outdoor colonies that I graded a 3 when I did my assessments. And they're both James McNally queens that I made nukes out of the zombies I got from Ian and put in these James McNally queens. And look at them. Now James sent me 2 rounds of queens because we're trying to figure out the best way to transport them, all the logistics, and this is the second round. The first round didn't do so well. They had some trouble in transit, so he changed that up a bit, and I think he managed to put together a little better recipe on how to do that. Okay, so you think this is a good colony? Now, they haven't totally devoured the patty like the other one did, but they've done pretty darn good. Nice population. And this is still a double. I haven't knocked this down at all. All right, let's dig in. It's a lot of old bees. The population percentage, the percentage of old bees in the population, I think is pretty high. Just because, you know, they haven't had a lot of new bees to be emerged yet. And a lot of these bees are 6 months old, you know. It's pretty amazing when you think of it. These bees, you see these bees, they could be 6 months old. You want to learn about that, you look up Lloyd Harris's data. Randy Oliver's done a lot of massaging of Lloyd Harris's data, and he's got data on how old the bees are at certain times of the year. And the nice thing is, Lloyd did all that research. I think he did it. He lives near me, but I think his research was done near here as well. Lloyd's data then would apply directly to my climate zone, which we know is so important in beekeeping, the beekeeping calendar, as it were. These are very heavy with feed. That's to be expected. Doubles, you know, they carry a lot of feed, so they're quite often have a lot of feed in the spring. Wow, there's no nest. No nest right here. Okay, there's a nest. Nice looking nest. There's a queen right in the corner there. And there's nothing on this side to speak of, so that is absolutely the beginning of the nest. Okay, so we have to be careful of the queen. She was right down there. Okay, decent nest, you know, sealed brood here, and that's about the end of it. That's interesting how they have a pretty nice population and the nest really is not that big. Well, that wind really makes things difficult. Okay, good. It's very nice to see. It was very sad to hear that James actually had a real disaster this year. Oh, I need to put my patties back on. Maybe I should send these bees back to him. We'll see if we can work the logistics out on that. Come and get them. Okay, this is another James. Looks vigorous. Smoker sits in the wind, blows the air through it, and burns the fuel up really fast. So that looks good too. Okay, again, I don't want to keep these out too long, but there's nice sealed brood all the way out to eggs here. Nice, that's beautiful. Oh yeah, that's a nice looking nest. Wow. You know, the population is good, but it's not incredibly strong, but that nest is very strong considering the population. So, you know, all that can come crashing down with some really cold weather. Now, I may have spoken too soon. Well, I think I see milk brood in the bottom. That one. It's kind of weird. Have a really nice frame and then kind of nothing. So I guess that's it. I was expecting a much larger nest. But we'll go with that. I'm happy with that. If the weather keeps up, we'll have a good turnaround here pretty fast on this one. Okay, I'm going to stop poking. Okay, that's why they hadn't consumed as much of that patty. They just weren't brooding quite as vigorously. Well, thanks for watching the initial first inspections on this warm and windy day. I'm going to pack it in now. It's Easter Sunday, so I want to go and spend time with my wife. And she's got a nice Easter dinner planned for us. And I'll let the bees be. They can do their thing and do what bees do. And I really appreciate you watching. Happy Easter. Take care and have fun. It's Monday, April 21, 2025. We had a beautiful day yesterday. We topped up at over 20 C. I think it was 21 was the high on my weather station. But today we're back into seasonably cool weather. 9 C. There's a bit of a northeast breeze here, which is kind of one of the worst sheltered directions for my apiary. But the bees are flying a bit. The bees are all over the pollen sub again. But I decided I'm going to come out here and start chipping away at my deadouts. And I got a story to tell. So I'm working away at these deadouts, scraping the comb off, cleaning the frames up, collecting wax, etc., collecting the boxes back over here, putting the clean frames in some 10s here. So I'm freeing up the 6s, put the frames in the 10s. Well, see, I got this one. I'm working here, and right here I see something crawl up and across. There was a worker bee, and there was another bee beside it. And I looked at that and I thought, that's a queen. I had already cleaned this frame. I'd been banging it around over here and cleaning it. So I grabbed that queen by the wings, carried her into my building, found a JZBZ cage, found some fondant that I had left over, stuffed it in the opening, and I went over to that strong hive that I had looked at yesterday. I grabbed a frame of brood and a bunch of bees. I found the queen in the strong hive. You can see the cage down in there. And I put that queen in there. 21st of April, I made a split. That's kind of nutty for my part of the world. You don't make splits on 21st April. So she's actually got a pretty good little population there now. A lot of those might fly back if I let them. So I'm going to keep those in the ProNuke, put them, I don't know if I can put them in my building because my honey house is much warmer now. But regardless, I'll keep them in there for a couple nights. I can bring them out on Wednesday. So I'll decide what's best to do with those. But that's kind of crazy. There's just a queen. There wasn't any bees. There's just this queen wandering around in there. And I'd already been banging that frame around and scraping it off. So I don't know what happened there. I had a buddy do that. He found a queen much the same way, and he took that queen, made a little split, and she made him a whole bunch of honey. So who knows? If she doesn't work out, that's fine. There's nothing lost. Well, I mean, I did take some resources away from this strong colony, but, yeah, so it's kind of weird. I did count up my losses, and I did the numbers on, what kind of each segment lost. And as suspected, there's really nothing too much conclusive except for maybe one thing. There's one, the guy who gave me the 50 loner colonies, those colonies wintered twice as well as the average. So the average was about 27% loss to date. I could lose some weak ones yet. But the average was 27% overall, and his subset of that was 14% loss. So I'm very happy with that. But otherwise, there's really not a whole lot of conclusivity to the, it's not statistically significant, I think is what the word is, because the subsets are so small. But that one was 50, so it gave me a good number to work with and to see what was going on. All right, I see the wind has knocked my jacket down on the ground. So I'm going to get back to work, keep cleaning up these deadouts. Thanks for watching. It's Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. It's a cool and potentially drizzly day outside. We got some rain yesterday and I think overnight. The forecast says that we can expect perhaps some more today. I think it's only about 3°C outside, maybe 6. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. It's too cold for me to be wanting to do too much. And there's nothing to do in the bee yard. I guess if it's not raining, I could continue cleaning deadouts, which I got some work done the other day on that. But today, I've decided to continue on this giant warming cabinet. So here, I've got 2 sides and the top is complete. And I picked up yesterday another sheet of plywood I needed for the project, and that plywood is the back and the front. And the front is composed of 2 barn doors. So the first thing to do is to get it on the table saw and cut it in half. So I've got a 4-foot piece, and then I'll cut the remainder in half. So I've got 2 24-inch pieces for the doors. So that is a pretty simple explanation as to what's going to happen here, and pretty simple cuts. So once that's done, then I need to cut some more of these pieces of 2x4 to do the perimeter of them, to build that out an inch to accept the polystyrene. And once that's done, then I can go back to town and buy the polystyrene. I didn't want to buy everything all at once. Things are so expensive that I want to get the material purchase as close to the payoff as possible, because things are expensive, especially polystyrene seems to have gone up a lot. It was a little bit less money than I thought it would be, but it's only 1 inch. So a 4x8 sheet of that is going to cost me $40 or something. I don't remember exactly what he said, but something like that. Anyway, I got to move the camera a little bit and then cut these sheets up, or this one sheet up anyway. Next step is to build the heater box. Similar to the cabinet that I built for myself, this cabinet will have what I would call an external heater box. Now, normally, if someone's making a cabinet with, say, an old refrigerator or something, you'll put a bulb in the bottom and maybe even a fan. But this cabinet is sized so that I can put a standard pallet inside. Those are 48 long and 40 wide. And therefore, I don't want the heater, the bulbs, the fans, and stuff like that. I don't want them inside the cabinet using up space. Now you say, well, maybe you could put it up top, and you could put it in the top. However, to me, that causes a difficulty in that heat tends to rise. Actually, heat rises very easily. So therefore, I don't want my heating bulbs at the top, and then I have to try to force that air down in order to heat the bottom of the cabinet as well. This cabinet's going to need enough heat on the bottom because it's not going to have an insulated floor. It's just going to sit on whatever floor he's got. I think it's a cement floor in that building. So, having said that, this external heater box will have certain components. I want to have a duct there with a 6-inch duct fan in it. Now that fan may sit in this direction. It may actually sit vertically with an elbow. And then I want to have the heater bulbs. There'll actually be those infrared reptile heaters. I want to have those more in this area down here because, again, I want them to be low so that when they get hot, I can move the air away from them, and the hot air will tend to go up. So I want to have another hole here with another fan, probably on an elbow, so the fan will be pointed this direction or so. I don't think I'll have to have it exactly, horizontal or anything. It depends on where the bulbs end up being, because I want to have then this will cause the air to come here past the bulbs down here and inside the cabinet. So if you picture this as the top now instead of a side, then this one will go through the side up here at the corner, and I actually want to put a duct in here that goes most of the way across so that the return air comes out of the cabinet on this side, right? If I were to put the forced air on this side and the return air here, it would pretty well just go this, and it wouldn't go through the cabinet as well. So I think hot and cold spots are a big consideration for these, but that's just the way I think about them. So I think I'm going to do that. I need to buy some ducting and I need to buy the fans. I need to buy sockets for the bulbs. I need to buy the bulbs. I need to buy a controller. So this is actually, this will not be insulated per se. So building this 1 inch, et cetera, it probably was a bit of a waste of time, but it was just a good way to get started because as you can see, if I'm going to have a 6-inch duct fan here, then the heater box is going to be 6 inches out from the side. So that'll be about that much, right? So I'll be using more plywood, etc., to make that box, and the outsides of the box is going to be insulated, not necessarily this part, because this is going to be in the warm part of the heated area. So that is where I'm at now. So again, I need to build the heater box in this, with this side. I need to build the heater box, and that's kind of going to be a lot of seat of the pants engineering, because I have to fit everything in. I want to fit it in some kind of a logical orientation and spacing and location. I want to make this so that it's serviceable for the guy. So this whole side may be hinged and open up as a big door. So that maybe the bulbs are going to be mostly secured to the wall here, and if he needs to service the bulbs or the fans or anything like that, he could just click this open it up, do his service work, close it up, and Bob's your uncle, as they say. So that's the plan here. Yeah, I don't know. Does that sound like a good plan to you? Give me some comments if you've got opinions on this. I know I'm overthinking it, but overthinking it I think is sometimes better than underthinking. It keeps me up at night sometimes, but it also can result in a nice product. One of the things I have to do is bore some holes. I need to bore holes there and there for my 6-inch fans to go into. I don't really have a way to do that. Do it with a reciprocating saw or something, you just end up with kind of a crappy hole, which isn't that bad. It doesn't have to be sealed or anything like that. I just want this to look nice since it's not mine. Like if it was mine, I'd just hack a hole in it likely, but if I build it for somebody else, I try to do a nice job for them. So anyway, that's where we're at, and I need to put my thinking cap on and do some thinking. What's the best way to do this? One of the things that I've been thinking about how to do is the orientation of the bulbs. I'll use this as a prop because it's similar size to the bulb in diameter and length. I don't want to put, and again, this is the side, so this is lying down, right? That's up, that's the front, that's the back. What I don't want to do is orient the bulbs. I don't want to just put a socket on this piece of plywood and then screw that bulb into there, because again, I have a determining factor for how thick this is over there, and that's 6 inches. That's more than 6 inches. I think the bulb would be, because they do sit up quite a bit, plus the fact that if they're radiating heat, and I have a box here with the box side, that's pointing at the box side, that's probably not what I want. So I think I need to get these bulbs oriented sideways somehow. Now, I have to build little, I don't know, some kind of a piece like this to put that bulb socket on. So something like this. And it can't, I don't think it can really be, well, it might be able to be right at the bottom, to be honest, maybe, and put that socket on here, right? So he wants spares. I'd normally put 4 in there, but he was saying that he wants 6 in case he needs to, I don't know, add more bulbs for more BTUs. He can't add that many because he's got a limited amount of power on a 15 amp circuit and even a 20. So maybe a socket down here, since this is going to be 6 inches, that's going to be 6 inches wide. Socket down here might work. And maybe the same thing here, or maybe just put them here, or this doesn't have to be a square box even. Make an angled thing here so that the air coming out of there comes down past the bulbs here and then exits out of there. That kind of thing might work. It would quite certainly be more like, probably more like this. I have to get the sockets and see how much space I need for the sockets. I'm liking that idea. Even at that, I can do this too, because I don't need this space for anything. It's kind of goofy, but I think that might work. Nothing, even if the raised portion was angled like that and it was hinged, it was hinged like this, there's nothing crazy about opening it this way, right? Yeah, I'm kind of liking that idea. So what I need to do is I need to get the bulbs, and I need to get the sockets and the electrical boxes for these, and kind of dry fit and get things kind of laid out for how long I need. What's the length of this that I need for put all of those. Like, he wants 6, so if I put 6 side by side, there might be quite a bit of space. And I might as well pick up the ducts and the fans, because I need to size that too. You get an elbow, a 6-inch elbow, and then a duct fan on the end of it. That's going to use a lot of space. So yeah, that's where we're at. It's Thursday, April 24, 2025. A beautiful, beautiful morning it is. I don't know the temperature. It's another couple degrees down, and I wouldn't be comfortable on a t-shirt, but I'll get working here and I'll warm up pretty fast. So I'm still working at these deadouts here today. I've got this much cleaned, which is pretty good, and I've got this much to go, so I don't think I'm quite halfway there, but it is what it is. It's nice to have them cleaned up. They're not too nasty. There's a few, you can't see, a little box I put on a pallet in the front here that are kind of nasty, meaning mostly green mold. And so I'm going to take those, I'm going to put them in my melter and just render that to wax off of them, and I'll re-wax them and put them back in the honey super this season. So yeah, that's what's going on. It's not too exciting. It's kind of disgusting, to be honest. But another big job I have to do this season is to continue on with the refreshing of the foundation and frames that I culled out in 2023. I only did about half of those last year, so I've got to crank up and do the other half this year. And those frames are just sitting over in the corner here, sitting outside. It's not a big deal. There's no comb or foundation or anything in them, so it actually does them some good, because the little bit of wax residue on them dries up, and it makes them easy to clean up when I go to put the foundation back in. So I think that's really all I have to tell you. I can see some scout bees on the pollen feeder. They were on that full force yesterday, so we have no natural pollen yet. And the apiary is looks like a mortgage. It's just a bunch of wooden boxes and plastic pails. I found 2 pails sitting on top of the hive, tipped up on its side, and that's got to be a raccoon. Skunk can't get up there, and skunk doesn't have the dexterity to do that. So the raccoon tipped that up and then let whatever syrup was there drip out and licked it up likely. I hope they don't figure out how to take that feed plug out, because if they figure out how to take that feed plug out, boy, they'll ravage the yard pulling those out. They're smart. They remember how to do things. They figure it out. So that's kind of not good that the raccoons are getting in here, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it, right? Okay, thanks for watching. Quick update. I'm a couple hours in, and I'm getting along pretty good. I've got maybe 6 or 8 boxes done. I'll turn this around and show you what I'm doing. So I'm down to the deadouts that are from the outdoor wintered colonies, so I have to deal with the panels. So I'm taking the panels off as I work, and take the screws out. I've got a bucket here for the screws, and I'm just setting them in here so they don't blow around. A little breeze today, and they're pretty light, so I'm just putting them in here. Boy, the front and back panels fit in here nice, as long as I match up a short top and a short bottom front. And the side panels don't fit quite as perfectly, but regardless. So then I'll take the box. I'll do 2 at a time. So I'll set 2 boxes up on here, and you can see all the debris that's in here. It's kind of a mess. And then I'll just scrape away those 2 boxes, clean them up, and as I work, I'll drag the debris back. It falls into this pronuke. So then the clean frames. It's a lot of feed, especially these outdoors. It tells me they died early because every frame is quite full of feed. And then I'll show you what I do with the pronuke full of debris. The bees woke up, so they're all over the pollen sub again, which means I don't have natural pollen coming in. And this is what happens to the debris. It all goes in my solar wax melter. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's not that warm. It's probably low to mid-teens Celsius, and this is melting. I don't know if it's the wax melting as much as it is just syrup and whatnot, because there's a lot of syrup in there. I'm culling out the story frames, so they're full of syrup. And so that'll just sit in there and drip. It'll melt whenever the temperature gets warm enough, and it really doesn't have to be a very warm ambient temperature. I've seen this thing melting like crazy at 16 and 17 C if the sun is hot, and today the sun is hot, so that is the deal. So I've got deadouts here too. These are ones that I don't know, died early, or I took out early in the spring or whatever. That's a dead nuke. And I think these are deadouts here too. So I'm gonna have to deal with quite a bit yet. So just taking a break, getting a drink, and I'll hit it again here. I've got some nasty ones here. Got a little box of nasty frames going there. Just yeah, lots of mold. Well, there's not a lot of mold I'm running into, but those frames, some of them get really moldy. But I could not ask for a nicer day to work here. You know, get to hear the birds. And that it's funny, you know, I just noticed yesterday the frogs thawed out. If you live in a warm climate, you may not know. Frogs are pretty amazing. In the fall, they'll bury down in the mud, and the things freeze solid all winter. They're frozen solid, and then in the spring, the mud thaws out, and the frog warms up, and away they go again. So I could hear them last night. I can hear them over here. There's a wet, kind of a little swampy area over there. So it's really kind of funny because I hadn't heard them until just yesterday when the ground thawed out enough that the frogs thawed out and started croaking again. So anyway, it's just, wildlife is pretty funny. So I get to listen to the bees buzz all day here while I'm working. The little breeze, not too bad, keeps me cool. And yeah, I'm going to put on a podcast and stand here and listen to a podcast and keep cleaning these gross frames. They're not too bad. They're, you know, as far as cleaning deadouts go, this is going pretty good. They're not that bad. Kind of one of the worst things is there's so much feed that the boxes are really heavy still. So I lift them up on here to clean them, but you know, I should have my hive lifter, but I'm servicing my hive lifter right now and need some parts. So it's kind of down at the moment. So I'm lifting all this by hand, which I shouldn't be, but that's what's happening anyway. All right, thanks for watching. It's Friday, April 25th, 2025, and another gorgeous, gorgeous day. Today is going to be probably, well, it's not going to be the warmest day we've had this season, but nearly. They're talking about a high of, I think, 17 or 18 degrees. And I want to show you something. I talk quite a bit, and I've had a lot of argument on this, but I've been doing it for years, and it sure works well, about moving bees in the apiary. Do you remember that little nuke I made the other day? Well, I found a queen wandering around in a deadout And I went and grabbed a frame of brooding bees, shook a couple of frames from a strong colony, and put them in a pro nuke. Now I let them sit. My rule is 2 nights. So today's Friday, so that was Wednesday that I did that. And I put them in a cool place. That was just in my camper building here, which is out of the sun. It's insulated so it stays cooler in the daytime. It did start to get a little bit warmer in there, but it wasn't warm enough to harm the bees. And so this morning, before the bees were up and at them, I came out here, brought them out of the building and set them in the apiary and opened the door. The idea is when I open the door, I want it to be either evening or early morning so they don't just come rushing right out. If they come rushing right out, they can easily drift. They won't know where they live because they haven't oriented yet. They just need to get out. So now I come back after a few hours into the apiary, and I'll show you what's going on here. Now you may recognize that as orientation flight. They come out, they turn around, and they look at the hive, and they fly back and forth, and they fly up, and they look at the area around the hive, and they fly up more, and they look at the landscape around the hive. So they imprint that on their little memory bank, and that memory lasts between 24 and 32 hours, I've noticed. I can't narrow it down because you've got nighttime in there and they're not going to fly anyway. But the point is, the very minimum for keeping them in the hive is 1 day. So they're not going to fly at night, right? So for example, if you came out early in the morning and you pick up a hive, you move it in your apiary or in your yard or any distance you want. If that day is not a day they're going to fly, it's too cold, it's rainy, whatever reason, but if they don't fly for that day, then they'll reorient the next day because they haven't flown for 1 day. They have to fly every day to find out where they are. Their memory doesn't last that long. That's my own observations. This is not science. The scientists will not tell you this. I've had scientists argue with me, but you know, in my opinion, I have great faith in the scientists and they do great work for us. However, my opinion is that science may say one thing, but stuff that works in the apiary isn't always the same, right? And I'm not a scientist, so I can't get into the, you know, how a bee thinks and everything, but I've done this often enough that I know it works. I absolutely 100% know it works. So if they don't fly for 1 whole day, you can move them. So in all practicality, if you want to move a hive and you come upon a day where there's no flight, like there has to be no flight, it's too cold or it's rainy or whatever, and then you come up either at dusk or the following morning before they fly, you move that hive and the bees will reorient if they haven't flown for that 1 day. That's my rule. And I encourage you to test that. And I encourage you to test that and tell me if I'm wrong. I know people talk about branches and grass, and I'll say you can do that if you want. But I'm talking about the time. I'm not talking about branches and grass and things. I'm talking about time. So test that timing theory. I've been testing it for about 5 years now, maybe longer than that. And so anyway, there's lots of activity at this little nuke that I made. And after I made it, I was thinking, that was kind of a stupid thing to do because she was obviously in a dead hive. So what kind of a queen is that? We'll see. Maybe it'll be a zombie. Give me some brood for a builder or something. All right. Well, today it's a full sun and warm. The wax melter is going to be running full steam ahead. I'll probably be able to melt that and load it up again. I've moved out a lot of deadouts out of here. I noticed the bees are on the pollen sub already. And I'm getting along really well cleaning these deadouts, but I moved out some more deadouts that I need to clean. So there's a lot to go. There's a lot to go. I'll be at this a while. All you have to do is stay organized with it, have it here so that you can pick away at it, and just do just that, just pick away at it. I'm just having a really good time out here on some of the first nice days we've had, and she's going to sting me in the forehead yet. But I got my little Bluetooth speaker here, put on a podcast, and sit here and clean frames as I listen to podcast. So that's probably going to be it for today, because this is all I'm going to be doing as far as I know. Yeah, so thanks for watching this week. I really appreciate it. Take care, have fun, enjoy your bees, and I hope you're getting nice weather too.